Replacing and installing a threaded bottom bracket is very straightforward on a bicycle. In this video I'm going to show you the parts involved, how they interact with each other, and I'm going to do a dry fit. Assemble parts of this with the used but clean components that I have instead of using the new and greasy components. So that's what I mean by dry fit. You're going to see both components. So let's get started. I'm just going to pull you a little further away. What has been done here? This is an aluminum frame. The frame inside was dirty. The thread inside was dirty. Everything was meticulously cleaned with multiple passes of cleaning it with a rag, cleaning it with compressed air, cleaning it with solvent inside or lacquer thinner to clean the residue that the new bottom bracket components, this gray stuff, is some thread lock compound. Some of it is going to transfer, maybe not permanently, to the thread on the inside of the frame. So as much as you can, clean it up, because it's going to be in the way of installing your new bottom bracket cups. The bottom bracket has two components, two cups which are threaded. The thread is cut into them, left hand side and right hand side, so they are opposite of each other, and between the two of them is this plastic sleeve. I'm going to explain these components real soon. The bottom bracket also comes with the cup, comes with a bearing that's press fit in place, which I have removed for other videos. This is not how it looks when it's in place, but roughly it's here, and it's usually covered up with a component, this plastic spacer. That's what you're gonna see partially on the new bottom bracket. So you're gonna be looking at basically a plastic spacer that's pressed inside the inner ring of a bearing. So these three are semi-permanently together in this configuration, mint in package, all greasy with the thread lock compound on it. I don't want to take it out, but that's what you're looking at. This grey plastic is this piece of plastic, okay, and everything else is just the cup with the bearing pressed in place inside the cup. So you don't have to worry about the bearing, it's very fine there. But what I'm gonna do in terms of prepping, your bearing might look like this, with the side of the bearing here shielded, the rolling elements here not being visible, just like so, sealed up and covered up with this plastic spacer here that is necessary. The spindle shaft goes through this spacer here. It's gonna make sense once you see the spindle and everything, how everything interacts. So on a new bearing I am going to take out this plastic spacer, and I'm gonna add extra grease underneath here to make sure, because I'm gonna use it in the worst possible conditions, riding conditions. It's gonna be immersed in water or submerged under water. This is a cyclocross or gravel bike. Not only rain or mud is consideration, but actually physically being underwater. So I want my bearings as watertight as possible. So for that purpose and for that reason, this gray plastic piece on which the words "do not disassemble" are visible, same on this one. This gray plastic just pops out from the bearing, and I'm going to put extra lubricant underneath from that side as well as from this side here inside the cup, which is going to look like this. So when the bearing is in place on this side, thereabouts, I'm going to put more lubricant here just in case any water seeps in through the threads or through the frame. There are holes in the frame, such as there's a screw here holding this plastic fitting here for the cable to come around here, running to the front derailleur there. So there are holes in the frame due to the screw being placed here. It's not watertight. Water will be in here, and there are weep holes for this purpose. Let me just show you one of them. To drain this water, those are two of the weep holes. Okay, so in order to seal my bearings, here is another weep hole inside this chainstay. So in order to seal my bearings, this is going to be slightly lubricated, but not so much, because it's going to interfere with the thread lock compound. So what is going to be lubricated, not the thread but the metal behind. Even though this is aluminum, I really don't want water here staying for any length of time and being wet and interfering with my bearing. So these cups are directional, meaning the thread is cut on them in opposite way. One of them is left side, the other one is right side. Here where the chain is not, that's your left side when you're going forward. So you need to find the cup, maybe this one. It's labeled, such as this one says, there's an R on it there. Let me just get you a sharp image on this. Sorry about that. Coming right up there. So right, so that means it goes to the chains side there. That's the right side. Okay, so this one is the left side, and it threads in normally when the bicycle is upside down like this, rotating counterclockwise. So this is how it's gonna go in. This is a dry fit. I'm gonna thread it all the way in like so. Now on the other side, of course, the right side cup is gonna go, and the spacer in between. Don't forget the spacer. It's not detrimental if you leave it out, but it helps keeping the water out from the bearing. So on the other side, counterclockwise would be in this direction, but that's not how this installs. I know you can't really see it, but you will see my hand moving. I'm just lining it up because it's a fine pitch thread. Okay, there. It rotates this way from the rear of the bicycle's rear wheel, there, right here, front wheel here. Okay, this one rotates this way. So this one rotates clockwise, this one rotates counterclockwise. I don't know, what did I say previously? So this one rotates clockwise, okay, for the left hand side, and this one rotates in the same direction seemingly. Okay, and they both get undone in the same direction. Alright, so that's how these stay in place. Now I'm not gonna have the bearing press fit in this. You're gonna have to just live with it that it's not there and imagine it, but I am gonna show you the components. So in the middle of it, this plastic trim piece is gonna be there, just roughly. What I want to focus on is the two-piece crankset. On the two-piece crankset, this is how the pedal spindle looks like, one part of it, with the chain rings on it, and there is a seal usually at the bottom. I cleaned it, I removed it, and I cleaned the dirt from this feature in the metal there. That's a shoulder cut into the metal where the seal should fit back. This seal is a metal backed seal, looking like this. So this is the metal backing side, and this is the rubber top side. On this rubber top side, you can see there is a step to it, or a lip to it. Okay, there's a flat side and there's a rounded side. This rounded side is squishy, like so, with the seal being able to deform here underneath my nail slightly. Okay, so this seal, its condition is important. This needs to be cleaned. Because this seal is usually squished in here, it gets ignored or forgotten or unnoticed by most people. So this seal is important. This seal goes metal side down, just like so, and it's gonna get lubricated thoroughly underneath and around. Of course, this goes in on the chain ring or the chain side, chain to the chain ring, and it's gonna come out here on this side, something like that, through this plastic trim piece. Of course, it's not staying in place because there's no cup or nothing on the other side. This is just a dry fit. On this side, of course, you're gonna put the pedal on it 180 degrees offset from the other side, of course, but for now I'm just gonna hang it just vertically, so both pedals up, both cranks are now pointing the same way. But before you put this pedal on, there is another O-ring here on this side that goes into a groove. So the same O-ring looks the same way, although this one is obviously trash. I just wanted to show you this is how yours might look like, depending on how it was installed by the manufacturer or the previous owner or whatever. So I'm gonna leave this trash seal on the pedal, okay, on the left side of the assembly, because it's easier to pull off one pedal and change the ring for it once I get a nice ring from somewhere, instead of pulling off the chain ring side. So this one is easier. Make sense? So this seal lives in the same position, so metal to the metal side down, like so. Metal side facing the crank arm, and the rubber side will be facing this plastic trim ring. I hope that makes sense. So this seal lives in this groove here, which has a little bit of a lip there. So the seal needs to go in and stay in place there with enough lubricant underneath and around it. Alright, so that's the seal. Now, this seal is going to be rotating against this plastic trim piece. You get the idea, the two of them like so. So there has to be enough lubricant between the two of them so that the seal doesn't get chafed and damaged like this. I hope that makes sense. And the pedal or the crank arm is going to fit on the spindle thereabouts to the end of this spline shaft there. Okay, the spindle has this spline fitting to it. Now, to tighten the crank arm, you're going to need to tighten this bolt here and that bolt there, which are opposite to each other to whatever specifications are printed on your pedal. This one says 12 to 14 Newton meters of torque. Oh, these need to be tightened, I forgot to mention, with their properly fitting tools. In this case, Shimano specifies 30 to 50 Newton meters of torque with an appropriately sized torque wrench that's able to deliver 30 to 50 Newton meters of torque. So these bolts will tighten, but there is one more component in between the two of them, and that's a small plastic piece that has two holes in it for the two bolts. But there's also a metal pin there. You can see the metal pin in the middle of the picture. Let me just focus the camera there. So you can see the pin's head right there, coming up in between. I wanted to show you the picture this way, or this trim piece in place like so, and that pin needs to be facing one feature on the spindle, on the spindle, that hole. Okay, there's only one of those holes, and the only way that pin will be facing that hole if the two crank arms are offset 180 degrees. So you can see that this plastic piece with the pin is going to line up with the hole there in this position when the two pedal or two crank arms are offset like so. So in this configuration, the pin, the metal pin, I'm just trying to work with the light here, thereabouts. The pin is coming up right in that hole. There really isn't enough light here to see this, sorry about that, but that's where the pin is coming up. It's fairly straightforward because the hole is right there, and here where one spline is missing in the spindle that's not cut in it, this is where the joint in the pedal should also line up with. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. There are the two of them going together in that position. So these are the components that are involved. I'm gonna, like I mentioned, I'm gonna take this plastic trim piece, this gray plastic, out of this, pack it with grease. It looks like it's packed, but I'm gonna take it apart and check it, because I'm considering this being immersed in water, as in fording a creek and such. So that's the work ahead of me. I'm gonna get to work. Thank you very much for watching.